Imagine silver skyrocketing to $300 an ounce. Sound impossible? A fantasy reserved for the wildest dreams of the most die-hard stackers? I want you to pause and really ask yourself that question. Is it impossible, or is it inevitable? What if I told you that the catalyst for this price explosion is not going to be the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates? It isn't going to be a gradual increase in solar panel demand. And it isn't even going to be the collapse of the US dollar, although that will certainly pour fuel on the fire. No. What if I told you that the trigger for a 10x move in silver, the event that takes us from $70 to $300 in the blink of an eye, is already ticking right now in the South China Sea? We are diving deep into the geopolitical powder keg that the mainstream media is too terrified to touch. We are going to talk about the Taiwan Scenario, the breaking of the Pacific supply chain, and why the next global conflict will turn silver into the most valuable strategic asset on the planet. If you are holding metal, you need to listen to every word of this, because the rules of the game just changed on January 1st, 2026. Let's look at the board as it stands today. If you look at the charts, you see silver fighting to hold that $75, maybe $80 range. It's volatile, it's aggressive. To the average investor watching CNBC, this looks like a speculative bubble. They see the price up 150% in a year, and they think it was too expensive. They think, I missed the boat. They are patting themselves on the back for owning Nvidia or Bitcoin, thinking they are the geniuses of the cycle. But you know better. You know that what looks like stability on the surface is actually a fragile equilibrium. It is a lie wrapped in a futures contract. Think of the silver market right now like a massive hydroelectric dam holding back a reservoir that is rising every single hour. That water level is industrial demand. We have talked about it until we are blue in the face, the solar panels, the electric vehicles, the AI data centers that require massive amounts of conductive metal. That demand is relentless. It is inelastic. They cannot build the future without silver. But the dam holding back the price, that dam is the global supply chain. It is the complex, fragile, interconnected web of ships, refineries, and mines that keeps the metal flowing from the ground in Mexico to the factories in Shenzhen. Right now, the dam is supposedly holding. The ships are moving. The insurance companies are underwriting the cargo. The mines in Peru are digging. Everyone is operating under the assumption that business as usual will continue forever. They are pricing silver as if the world is at peace, but the world is not at peace. The vulnerabilities underneath this market are screaming red alerts to anyone with the clearance to see the data. The deficits are real. The vaults in London and New York are bleeding inventory. But here is the smoking gun that nobody is talking about. On January 1st, 2026, just days ago, China implemented a new special export license for silver. Did you hear about this on the news? Probably not. They were too busy talking about the distraction in Venezuela. But this policy change is critical. China replaced their old quota system with a strict licensing regime. Only companies with a massive capacity, over 80 tons per year, and a deep credit line are even allowed to export silver now. Why would they do that? Why would the world's largest refiner suddenly make it harder to sell their product to the West? Because they know what is coming. They are tightening the screws. They are preparing to close the gates. But the real danger, the danger that creates the $300 scenario, isn't just bureaucratic. It is kinetic. I need you to visualize a map of the Taiwan Strait. This isn't just a stretch of water between an island and a continent. It is the jugular vein of the global economy. 50% of the world's container ships pass through this corridor. 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors, the chips that run everything from your iPhone to the guidance system of a Tomahawk missile, come from this one island. For years, we have heard the diplomatic rhetoric. One China, strategic ambiguity, status quo. But in 2026, the rhetoric has shifted to mobilization. We are seeing unprecedented military drills. We are seeing the People's Liberation Army practicing quarantine scenarios. We are seeing the U.S. Navy moving carrier strike groups into position. Why does this matter to a silver stacker in Ohio or the UK? Why should you care about a body of water 6,000 miles away? Because silver is the blood of the electronics industry, and Taiwan is the heart. Hypothesize this scenario with me. Walk through the timeline. It's 3:00 a.m. on a Tuesday. You wake up to a notification on your phone. News breaks that a customs inspection regime has been established around Taiwan by Beijing. They aren't calling it a war. They aren't calling it an invasion. They are calling it a law enforcement action. But the effect is immediate. A naval blockade is established. Every ship entering or leaving the Taiwan Strait is stopped. What happens next? Immediate panic in the financial markets. But look deeper. Look at the logistics. Global shipping insurance rates spike 5,000% overnight. Lloyd's of London refuses to insure any hull traversing the South China Sea. Every cargo ship in the Pacific freezes in place. The captains drop anchor because they cannot move without insurance. The global conveyor belt stops. Now consider the silver supply chain. This is the part the analysts miss. China controls over 60% of the world's silver refining capacity. They are the ones turning the raw ore from South America into the 999 fine bars you buy. In a blockade scenario, the silver curtain falls completely. Do you think for 1 second that China is going to keep exporting silver to the West while U.S. aircraft carriers are sailing towards their coast? Do you think they will send strategic metals to the nations imposing sanctions on them? Absolutely not. The moment that blockade starts, China will hoard every ounce of domestic production. They will seize every ounce sitting in the Shanghai Gold Exchange. They need it for their missiles. They need it for their satellites. They need it for their own solar grid to survive an energy blockade. Overnight, the Western world loses access to the primary refining hub of the planet. The spot price on the COMEX becomes irrelevant because there is no metal arriving to settle the contracts. This is the flashpoint. This is the moment the paper price dies and the physical price goes vertical. But wait, I can hear the skeptics. I can hear the naysayers in the comment section right now. But we have Mexico. We have Peru. They produce the silver. We don't need China. Do we? Do we really? Let's look at the data. Let's look at the reality of the mining industry, not the fantasy. Yes, Mexico and Peru are the titans of silver mining. Together, they account for nearly 40% of global mine supply. But here is the dirty little secret that the mining CEOs don't talk about on CNBC. They don't refine it all there. A massive amount of that concentrate, the raw dirt and rock containing the silver, is shipped across the Pacific to be smelted. Where? In Asia, in China. The smelters in North America closed down decades ago due to environmental regulations and labor costs. We outsourced the dirty work, and now we are about to pay the price. Imagine that Pacific trade route as a war zone. Imagine naval blockades. Imagine submarines patrolling the shipping lanes. Those shipments of concentrate stop. The ore piles up at the ports in Manzanillo and Callao. It sits there oxidizing because there are no ships to take it to the smelters in China, and the smelters in the West don't exist anymore. The supply chain is severed, but it gets worse. Let's talk about resource nationalism. In a world where the US and China are in open conflict, Latin America becomes a battleground for influence. We are already seeing it. We've seen the protests in Peru shutting down mines for weeks at a time. We've seen the cartel violence in Mexico, making it impossible for transport trucks to move bullion without a private army. In a global conflict scenario, chaos isn't a bug, it's a feature. Intelligence agencies will be active. State actors, prompted by foreign intelligence services, could incite strikes at major mines like Peñasquito or Antamina. Cyber attacks on the power grids in Zacatecas could take processing plants offline for months. We saw what happened to the Colonial Pipeline in the US. Imagine that level of cyber warfare applied to the power grids feeding the silver mines of Mexico. Visualize this. The Pacific is closed. The mines in Mexico are paralyzed by cyber warfare or cartel roadblocks. The ports in Peru are idle because no ships are coming. Suddenly, 40% of the world's silver supply is stranded. It exists in the ground, sure. It exists in the rock piles. But it doesn't exist in the vaults of London or New York. It doesn't exist in the form of 1,000-ounce bars that can be delivered to the COMEX. For the industrial buyer, the Tesla, the Apple, the Raytheon, this is a nightmare. They operate on just-in-time inventory. They have maybe 2 weeks of silver on hand, maybe a month if they are prudent. When the shipments stop, they panic. And when giant corporations panic, they don't look at the price tag. They don't care if silver is $80 or $100. They hit the market buy button. They bid whatever it takes to keep their factories open. Because if they don't have silver, they don't have iPhones. If they don't have silver, they don't have Teslas. The cost of the silver is a fraction of the cost of the final product. So they can absorb a tenfold increase. They will pay $300 an ounce without blinking if it means they can stay in business. This is how you get a price explosion. Not from retail buying a few coins, but from industry realizing they are starving. Now, let's pivot to the psychology. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about the human animal. When the tanks roll, when the missiles fly, when the currency starts to wobble, what is the first instinct of every human being in history? Flight to safety. We saw it in Ukraine. We saw it in Venezuela. We are seeing it now in the border towns of Colombia, where people are paying for food with gold flakes and silver chains. But in a US-China conflict scenario, the scale is global. Where do you run? You can't run to bonds because the governments will be printing trillions to fund the war, creating hyperinflation. The doom loop of debt issuance to fund the military-industrial complex will go into overdrive. Yields will be capped, meaning bondholders will be locked into guaranteed losses in real terms. You can't run to the stock market because the supply chains are broken and earnings are collapsing. Apple without chips from Taiwan is a company worth half of what it is today. You can't even run to crypto. If the power grid is under cyber attack and the internet is firewalled, your digital wallet is inaccessible. There is only one place to go: tangible assets. Gold will be the first mover, of course. Central banks will hoard gold like dragons. It will become unobtainable for the average person. Gold will hit $5,000, maybe $10,000. It will be the currency of kings and nations. But silver? Silver is the people's money. When the average person realizes that their digital bank account is vulnerable, that their currency is losing 10% of its value a month due to war inflation, they will panic into silver. This is the fear trade on steroids. We are talking about a psychological shift from return on capital to return of capital. People won't care about making a profit. They will care about having something in their hand that is real, something that doesn't require electricity, something that doesn't require a counterparty. Imagine millions of people all at once trying to buy physical silver. We already saw what happened in 2020 and 2021 with the silver squeeze. That was just a Reddit movement. That was just a few thousand people, and it drained the mints dry. The premiums shot to 40%. Now imagine that, but multiplied by the population of the Western world. Imagine every middle-class family trying to buy just one tube of silver eagles to protect their savings. The math doesn't work. The silver doesn't exist. The dealers will hang up the out-of-stock signs within hours. The websites will crash. And on the secondary market, the real market, the price won't be what you see on the comic screen. The price will be whatever the guy holding the metal says it is. $100, $200, $300. If you're holding the only life raft on a sinking ship, what is the price of a seat? This brings us to the domino effect. This is why $300 isn't hyperbole. It is the result of a converging mathematical singularity. Domino 1, the supply shock. The Taiwan conflict severs the China refining link. Latin American production is stranded or nationalized. Global supply drops by 50% or more instantly. Domino 2, the industrial panic. Tech and defense companies, realizing silver is a matter of national security, bypass the markets and try to buy directly from mines, offering massive premiums. They set a new floor price at $100 just to secure delivery. Domino 3, the monetary explosion. Governments print trillions to fund the war effort. Inflation hits double digits. The public loses faith in fiat. Domino 4, the short squeeze. The banks, Bank of America, Citibank, who are sitting on hundreds of millions of ounces of paper short positions, they are annihilated. We know about the rumors of the 800 million ounce short position. In this scenario, they are trapped. They try to cover, but there is no physical metal to buy. They are forced to bid the price up to infinity to exit their positions. It's a feedback loop. Higher prices drive more fear. More fear drives more hoarding. More hoarding drives higher prices. Bank of America just released a report, we talked about this, saying silver could hit $39 just based on solar demand. They are trying to keep you calm, but the internal risk desks know the truth. At $300 an ounce, silver is still historically cheap compared to gold or other assets in a hyperinflationary environment. But here's the catch. Here's the part that keeps me up at night. When silver hits $300, you won't be able to buy it. The Unobtanium Phase will be in full effect. You will see the price on the screen, but you won't find a dealer who has it. You won't find a mint that is producing. The buy button will be grayed out. The only people who will benefit from the $300 silver scenario are the ones who held it before the first shot was fired. The ones who saw the ticking time bomb in Taiwan and positioned themselves accordingly. The ones who understood that in a kinetic war, paper promises burn, but metal endures. We are living in dangerous times. The calm you see in the markets today, with silver hovering at $80, is an illusion. It is the receding tide before the tsunami. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this to prepare you. The geopolitical chessboard is set. The pieces are moving. Taiwan is the kingpin. If you are holding silver, you are holding insurance against the chaos of the world. You are holding the one asset that has survived every war, every collapse, and every empire for 5,000 years. Do not get shaken out by the daily fluctuations. Do not look at the spot price and think it reflects reality. The reality is in the supply chain. The reality is in the geopolitics. Hold the line. Keep stacking. Because when the history books are written about this era, they will talk about the people who trusted paper and the people who trusted metal. Which one will you be? If this scenario opened your eyes, if you want to stay ahead of the intel that the mainstream media is ignoring, you need to do two things right now. First, smash that like button so this warning gets out to more stackers. We need to wake people up. Second, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification. The situation in the Taiwan Strait is fluid. It changes by the hour. I will be here, tracking the ships, tracking the vaults, and tracking the money. You do not want to miss the next update. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Be honest. If silver hits $300, are you selling or are you holding for the New World Order? Let me know below. This is Veiled Wealth. Stay hidden. Stay wealthy.